got to open up a good line of communication right now with all of your staff members and find out, what are your concerns? What are your cares and considerations as you are thinking, hey, listen, as we migrate back, hopefully to whatever the new normal is, we're not going back to the way it was. It's just never going to go back. But as we get ourselves into a scenario where people begin to start getting back into the workplace, business owners and leaders really have to ask themselves this question: how am I making sure that my staff feels safe, they feel comfortable, and they feel listened to? The new coronavirus act that was passed allows for some additional reasons why people do not have to come back. So for an example, if somebody is immunocompromised and they do have a legitimate, realistic reason to think that they may be in danger by coming into work, there's some consideration that has to be taken there. If there's a scenario where they've got kids at home and they don't have people to take care of their children, then there's some real reasons why those people really should be given some additional options as far as, coming to work or not. If you're in a position where your position cannot be done remotely and you can't go back to work, well, that's a problem.
We also talked about creating a safe environment, what businesses need to be doing, what we as employees should be doing as well to make sure that our workplaces are as safe as possible as more people start to head back to the office. I'll share more of that conversation later this morning.
Now that more and more coronavirus-related restrictions are starting to ease, more and more people will be heading back to work.
Yeah, there are still a lot of people though who don't feel quite safe enough just yet to go back to their workplace. So I talked with a workplace culture expert about just that. As many people get the call from their employers to come back to the office, there's a lot of gray area about what those employers should be doing to maintain a safe environment. Well, if you ask business strategist Cheri Perry, businesses have a responsibility to maintain a safe work area, but we as employees also carry just as much of that responsibility.
We learn everything we needed to know in kindergarten. So every workplace, even pre-COVID, people, let's wash our hands. Let's make sure that when we eat our lunch, we wash our hands and clean up our workspace. Let's make sure that we're not doing the little easy preventable things that automatically spread disease. So there's that. Cover your mouth when you cough. And that's just, it seems so silly to have to say it, but we do have to say it. It's just, we need reminding, those kinds of things. Right now, I would say that if you are in an environment, every work environment is different. Every work environment has different equipment, different people, different needs. So it's important to be talking to the people in your industry and finding out, hey, what are people in my industry doing? So I'm in an office environment, for an example. So we have upped the number of times that our workplace is being cleaned and sanitized. We've spread out the working environment so that people are as far apart as they can be, because they do have to be in the office. We've limited the amount of people that are allowed in the common areas, so like the workroom or the lunchroom and the kitchen. So there's now some parameters around that. We've adjusted the lunch hours and so on to make sure that we have as little interaction as possible without getting crazy about it. So I think that each individual workspace has its own demands, and business owners just have to go listen. Whether you believe the COVID-19 scenario or you think it's over-dramatized or overhyped or not, it makes no difference. At the end of the day, if your team is afraid to come to work, you're going to have a problem.
We do know that there are a lot of jobs out there that cannot be performed at home or away from the workplace. So it's really important, Cheri says, for the employer and the employee to communicate about safety issues as they start to go back to work. But for those who can work at home and enjoy it, well, Perry says speak up about that. She gave some good advice about working out a system with your boss that could work for you too. I'm going to share more of that conversation later. Listen to this. According to a survey conducted by One Poll, it found that 48% of the people it surveyed would take a pay cut if it meant they could work from home indefinitely. Well, I talked with a workplace culture expert about this new normal so many of us have found since this pandemic began, and what to do if we don't want to go back to the way everything was before.
You are working from home and you love it, and your boss says, guess what, ring-a-ling, come on back. A lot of people are going to say, okay, and they're going to go on back, and now they're going to be left with the resentment of, man, I really liked working from home. This sucks. That's one option. The second option is, hey, I got your call. I know you said come back, but oh my gosh, I am loving this working from home thing. Can we talk? Can we maybe have a schedule adjustment where maybe I get to work from home 3 days a week and be in the office 2 days a week? Ask for what you want. That's the beauty of being an American. Listen, craft your job the way you want it. You do not have to be the owner of a company to get what you want out of your work experience. So I have staff members that have said to me, you know what, Cheri, I am not wired to work from home. Get me back in that office as quick as you can. Mission accomplished. I have staff members that said, you know what, Cheri, man, I love being in the office, but oh my goodness, I am really enjoying this time at home with my family. What can we do? And because I want to keep good people, I listen to them, I look at it, I weigh out the pros and the cons, and I'll find a solution that's a win-win.
We also talked about employees' rights as they go back to work and the responsibility that falls on both an employer and the employees to create and keep our workplaces safe. We'll have more of that conversation later this morning.
6:55 right now as Alabama enters this new phase of the safer at home order. That means more and more folks are heading back to work.
That's a welcome call for many, but there are still many more out there who feel like it's not quite safe enough to return to the workplace just yet. So I spoke with a workplace culture expert about the responsibility of creating a safe work environment, how it falls on both the employers and the employees. We also talked about what rights employees have as they go back to the office.
Didn't we learn everything we needed to know in kindergarten? So every workplace, even pre-COVID, I mean, people, let's wash our hands. Let's make sure that when we eat our lunch, we wash our hands and clean up our workspace. Right now, I would say that if you are in an environment, every work environment is different. Every work environment has different equipment, different people, different needs. So it's important to be talking to the people in your industry and finding out, hey, what are people in my industry doing? So I'm in an office environment, for an example. So we have upped the number of times that our workplace is being cleaned and sanitized. We've spread out the working environment so that people are as far apart as they can be because they do have to be in the office. We've limited the amount of people that are allowed in the common areas, so like the workroom or the lunchroom and the kitchen. So there's now some parameters around that. We've adjusted the lunch hours and so on to make sure that we have as little interaction as possible without getting crazy about it.
What kind of rights does an employee have when it comes to feeling safe at work?
Well, now you're asking a business owner, so let me tell you what kind of rights I think employees have. They have the right to work in conditions that they want to work in. If you're not happy with what's happening at your workplace environment, people should take personal responsibility instead of just picking up a phone and calling a state or whatever entity that says just call if your employer's not doing the right thing. Come on, we're in America. Talk to the business owner. Talk to your manager. Say, you know what, Cheri, I'm concerned about this. What are you doing? And address it like a personally responsible adult. That would be my first point of action. The second is you can always vote with getting a different job. I know that sounds horrible, but there are a lot of vacancies right now. It's a little bit of a, one side of this whole COVID-19 scenario. We are not chained to a workplace environment. And it doesn't matter what job you're in. It does not matter what your position is. If you do not like the way things are going at your job, and this is before COVID, during COVID, after COVID, do something about it. Educate yourself to get more credentials so you can do something different. Ask for what you want. Be specific, be clear, be respectful. But just remember, you're not trapped. You're an American.
Now, Perry says the most important thing we can do as we go back to work is to open up a good line of communication. Both employees and employers need to be very straightforward about their concerns and their considerations, understanding that things may never go all the way back to the way they were.